What is the word? It is Lord Third, your number one trash player, aka the Garbage Good, aka Jackie Spade, aka the man who's showing up Luke Cage because I'm here in my yellow sweatshirt and I'm killing it. And I'm here with the true hero.
The true hero, the Ranger, no better than a stranger, the king of dreams, no better than his 10 rings, putting the dreams in people like Jessica Jones and trying to get legal help with the guy with the big red bone. And we are
the Sly Guys, delivering the hottest of hot takes on all things nerdy in culture. And we are talking about some nostalgia. Not deep nostalgia. This isn't blinded by nostalgia, but we're talking about something that has been a couple of years removed for many of us. We're talking about...
we're not going back to Hey Arnold. We're not going back that far.
Yeah, not right now, you know. But we are talking about the Marvel TV shows on Netflix. The Marvel Netflix verse. The black sheep of the MCU, I will say. And I'm not just saying that because Luke Cage is in this group of defenders, but because these shows have just kind of faded from existence and they never had any real bearing on the MCU. Probably funny enough, even more than like Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was garbage, but we are talking about the Marvel Netflix shows.
And let's talk about them being black sheep. I mean, they really are the true stepchildren. I mean, you got Marvel here that was first married to Netflix, and then they got divorced in that custody battle. And after Marvel remarried and married Disney Plus, our stepchildren, our black sheep, were displaced because they could no longer afford to stay with Miss Netflix.
Yes.
Netflix lost custody. Because she's got a drug problem.
Well, Netflix, see, that's the thing. Netflix got the rights for a couple of years, but then they found out that they were unfit to be a parent, and so, you know, like the kids, eventually they got released. But at this point, the kids are all grown up. They are exonerated, you know, they're emancipated.
And just like in real life, once you grow up, no one gives a fuck about you anyway.
Exactly. But that's why we're here.
That's why we're here. So we're giving them a call. We're seeing what they did after college. We're seeing where their lives ended up. And spoiler alert, nowhere. And we're bringing them back for a taste of nostalgia. Bringing back the Red Ranger from Power Rangers, Jason. Levels of nostalgia here. We're going to see what... Watching these episodes, Matt, as far as a retrospective, now also comparing what we have now from Marvel.
Yeah.
Marvel started off with Netflix shows like Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, and Daredevil back in the day. And now we have shows to compare to like Loki, Captain Falcon, and the Winter Soldier, and WandaVision.
Yeah.
So now we have our new kids on the block versus our old kids on the block.
Precisely.
Which side are you going to stand on? We're going to find out by the end.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I think that as we look back at the Netflix shows, you know, you've got to start with Daredevil. Daredevil was the show that started it all. It really set the tone for the other Netflix shows, the other Marvel Netflix shows, especially because of how dark and gritty it was. It was established that it was in the same universe as the MCU. It was part of the cinematic universe, but it was its own thing, kind of like how these heroes tend to be. And so it was interesting that they chose the particular heroes that they did to represent the Netflix shows. You had the Daredevil, who's probably one of the most noticeable, one of the most recognizable faces in Marvel comics of these five that we have. Then we had Jessica Jones, then we had Luke Cage, then we had
the real stepchild. The real black step.
Wait.
Black sheep stepchild.
Was it? There was a fourth. Nah, maybe there were just 4, because then we had the Punisher. So yeah,
oh, no.
you had
he's now the Punisher's a friend down the street that came over to play.
No, we had.
We're still missing one.
Yeah, are we? I don't think we are. I think
he was adopted or something. He was adopted, and like there was something wrong with him. I think there was something wrong with him.
Yeah, like he was kind of like hard-handed. Oh,
he's always doing something with his hand with something hard in it.
Oh yeah. It was like
masturbator. That's what it was.
It was like copper. No, steel. Iron Fist. I forgot about Iron Fist, and obviously the writers did too. And so you got these 5 shows: Daredevil, Jessica Jones, Luke Cage, Iron Fist, and The Punisher, all on Netflix. And 4 out of 5 of those shows came together to create the limited series Defenders, in which they all came together. And so it was kind of this small scale. It's kind of a small scale Avengers deal in bringing them all together. And so I think the major thing, the big impetus for looking back on these was seeing the success of the current Marvel TV shows on Disney Plus. Now with the forthcoming Moon Knight slated to appear at a later point with Oscar Isaac in that leading role. There's a lot to be talked about, as there is also discussion that Charlie Cox is somehow going to be connected. Charlie Cox, who plays Matt Murdock / Daredevil, he is supposed to be connected to this new Spider-Man movie or some other Marvel projects in some capacity. So there's a lot of talk swirling about perhaps a revival. The moratorium on these particular shows is up. For those that don't know, there was a contractual agreement that Netflix made with Disney / Marvel Studios that Marvel couldn't make characters they couldn't make shows with these characters. These characters couldn't appear in anything else for a limited amount of time. And that time is now up. So now we are at a point where some of these shows could make an appearance. Like I said, there's already talk that Charlie Cox is going to appear in some capacity in Spider-Man. We don't know that yet. But what we do know is that these shows did leave a mark. And I think that they did set a precedent, whether good or bad. We saw some things about it. And so we want to talk about it. And so we basically want to share some thoughts on these shows, and then talk a little bit about, what we would like to see moving forward and what may be happening as these Marvel TV shows are taking off. So again, as I said, we got to start with Daredevil. It's the one that set the pace and really set the tone for the rest of these shows.
Not only did it set the tone, it really opened the gate too. Because no one knew how popular this was going to be, and all of a sudden you hear Jessica Jones and Luke Cage back to back.
Yeah.
And it really paved the way for those Netflix shows. One thing I got to say, we talk about the tone. One thing that stood out to me about Daredevil, its opening theme. And I don't know what gets me more ready to watch some blind dude beat some blind ass more than that theme. It's ominous. I think that's the best thing for me. It's ominous. As you see the red paint pour down, it's very symbolic. It's super subtle. There are no spoilers. And I like that about it. Comparing that to the anime openings that you'd see, where you have the classic tropes of you have our protagonist staring in the distance, reaching for something that's unreachable. We got spoilers in the background.
Someone who's just running through a field for no reason,
running and then jumping to the sky. I don't know how they got there.
Reaching for more air.
And then on top of that, a random fight scene with some major spoilers that if you missed it, poor soul you.
Yeah.
But we all saw that twist coming. But it was nice to have something that really set the tone for the show because it was very down-to-earth, serious, ominous, and that was such a nice feeling to have, especially when you contrast that to things like the Avengers movies.
Mm-hmm.
Phase 1 and Phase 2, right where around I believe Daredevil came out, was in the middle of Phase 2.
Yep.
Marvel really got serious with Winter Soldier, and I believe this was around that same time. So it was a nice change of pace from the light campy, for the most part, Marvel movies we had been getting for that first phase, and even Avengers.
Yeah.
And it was marketed as that serious, dark, gritty crime thriller. It wasn't even Marvel. It was, here's Daredevil that so happens to be a part of Marvel, sort of thing. At least the first season was. And has one of my favorite villains in it, the Kingpin, whom went from this just straight up evil dude from the animated series, whom I love that guy too, who he's like, you think I am fat? I am 300 pounds of solid muscle. I could crush you. That's hype. That's how you thought I was a fat boy. I'm a muscle boy. Bring it.
Yeah.
Like, I love it. But this guy, I thought Daredevil, I went back and watched just 2 sporadic episodes just to see how I liked it in retrospective. It was shot very well, and I thought the pacing was actually not bad for this series. Now, I will say this point. Watching a series, as long as Season 1 Daredevil, and even Season 2 Daredevil, any series Marvel's put out, let's say with Jessica Jones, when you know what's going to happen, yes, the second viewing is far longer because there are parts that are drawn out for effect. And that return emotionally diminishes with every viewing because you know what's going to happen.
Right.
However, Daredevil is one of those shows where it didn't happen as much as I thought it would. Especially when you're talking about the when he's fighting the bikers in the bar, going down the stairs. It was long, drawn out. I still love the hell out of it. All the action fight scenes I thought were just ahead of its time. Clearly a stunt double because Charlie can't do that shit. Like, look at him. He's like 110 pounds soaking wet. Like, no. Daredevil and his freaking, like, tee. Like, no, that dude is jacked. Charlie is not. Like, no offense to you, bro. Like, I've seen you with your shirt off. You ain't looking like that, man. And I noticed that, Season 2 and beyond, after you got your suit, there's a lot more padding. I can't tell the difference more now because you got all that padding on that suit. But I know that ain't you down there. No offense, just saying. But looking back at it, you can see the difference as far as what they took in other series, like Captain America and the Winter Soldier. Like, the action sequences and the dramatic tension that they build for the overarching story, I thought Daredevil 1 was immaculate with this. It's why it did so well. It wasn't trying to tack on and be like, oh, we're Marvel, love us. It was like, love us on our own merits. Yeah. We have characters with depth that are dramatic. When the action scenes were just the cherry on top because there's kind of few and far between. Yeah. They had them as massive set pieces at the end. It's not the focus. The focus is the drama. And I really love that looking back at Daredevil Season 1.
And
what about you, Lord?
And I think that the thing is, so a lot of people, when they're looking at this series, like, it's inevitable for people to compare it to the I think it was a 2006 movie Daredevil, 2005, 2003. Yeah, 2003. Yeah, 2003 Daredevil,
that CGI is definitely 2003.
Which was yeah, it most certainly is, but which was absolutely terrible for multiple reasons. It missed the point of all of the characters that were in it, and yeah, it has that feeling of a 2003 superhero movie. You know, it's trying to be comedic, it's trying to be kind of funny. But the problem is that Daredevil has never been one of those series where it's goofy and campy. It's never been that type of series. And especially when in Daredevil's best stories, that's not the Daredevil that exists. And so I really loved how when they approached this series, they stuck with that theme. They stuck with the true kind of like the darkness of it. And the thing the thing about Daredevil, it's very easy to make fun of some of the portrayals, most notably the Kingpin and his long-winded soliloquies where one must talk about anything. Like when I went to Taco Bell last night and got that
5 stars already. 5 stars. I love it. I don't know what it was about when he spoke, because it shouldn't work. It shouldn't work. And that's what kills me about it. Like, if anybody else in any other movie was talking just the way you talked just now, where you're speaking low and long sentences that are very simple but seem complex, we'd laugh the hell out that movie. Get the hell out of here. But for whatever reason, he knocked it so hard at the park, we were compelled to listen. I can listen to you talk like that for hours, and he could be talking about making a burger.
Yeah, that's what it's like.
I flattened the patty, at which point I seasoned.
It was only the highest quality ground chuck. 80-20 split. You have to turn it down to a low heat, because if you turn it too high, you burn the meat, and it does not caramelize like you need it to. Matthew.
Just like the city. And don't forget, he brings it back to how the city is.
It's always the city.
Analogy. It's always about the city.
The city is like a Kobe beef burger, Matthew. A fool who has no idea of its value sees it and simply sees a cow. But this blessed bovine is precisely the value that you have placed on it. This is a cow that is cared for in the best climate for beef in all of the world. A province in Japan that only the most vaunted of guests may appear. And this, Matthew, is the burger that you are eating now. But that burger's journey does not end here. It ends in a landfill as that shit dribbles down your ass crack into that toilet and goes through your sewer lines into that place just to return to the ground from which it came. It is just like the grass that same cow that you consumed years earlier. It is the circle of life, Matthew, and we are members of this circle, and we cannot disrupt its flow, because this is Hell's Kitchen. This is my throne, and this is my birthright. Just like that Kobe beef hamburger.
That was not from the show, but it sounded like it though, because that's how he sounds, and it's just as compelling. You're thinking, where's he going with this? It makes perfect sense. I want a Kobe beef sandwich now. Where's my Kobe beef sandwich? Give this man a Kobe beef sandwich. Now comparing that Kingpin to Michael Clark's Kingpin.
Yeah.
I think now everyone likes to shit on this 2003 Daredevil.
Yeah.
I think it's a product of the time.
Right.
They crawled so that Marvel could run, because you got John Favreau in this movie too.
That's Foggy.
Like they learned a lot from this movie.
For sure.
It was a complete mistake. I think it was a complete mistake casting Jennifer Gardner, but what do I know?
And Ben Affleck is Matt Murdock. I mean, there were a lot of decisions that were made.
I like Ben Affleck. Well, I like Ben Affleck. I don't know if I liked him as Matt Murdock because the writing was so poor in Matt.
I didn't like him. I didn't like him as Matt Murdock. He just didn't fit that role. I don't think that, honestly, I'm kind of neutral about Jennifer Gardner, because it wasn't she did what she could with what she had, but they just wrote. They tend to write and execute Elektra poorly in almost every adaptation. I also tend to not like her even in some of the comics, but that's just personal taste. But even just some of the execution that they do. And that brings us back to the Netflix show, because it is in the second season. So the first season is phenomenal of Daredevil. It was groundbreaking. Vincent D'Onofrio does a phenomenal job as the Kingpin. Charlie Cox does a phenomenal job as Matt Murdock, and even just the supporting cast of just different characters in that cast are great. Now the second season was not bad by any means. It was good, I would say. And I say this especially having rewatched it recently as a week ago. But the problems in it are pretty glaring in comparison to the first and the third seasons. Because I can honestly say that the first and the third seasons are among some of my favorite television that I've watched probably in the past decade, let alone my life. So with that being said, the second season was just like Age of Ultron in that it had the weight of trying to set up multiple things in the future. Because in the second season of Daredevil, they have to set up the Punisher, they have to set up the Defenders, they have to set up the plot to the main motivation for the Defenders. Yeah. And so there's a lot going on in season 2, and it doesn't always seem cohesive. By the time you're at the end, the last episode in season 2, you're just kind of like, why is the Punisher still here? Why is Elektra connected to any of this? Why is the Punisher, Elektra, and Daredevil all in this thing at the same time? Like, what are we doing here?
Cohesive.
Yeah.
Feel cohesive. I mean, comparing that to Age of Ultron, when you have to basically carry this your groundbreaking series, you have to carry the birth of this new universe on your back.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of pressure that comes along with it.
Yeah.
I mean, with Daredevil, no one took this show seriously at first. And then even in season 2, like, it was the jumping off point for so many Netflix originals. Not so many. We know what they are. I mean, call them many, so many, whatever. But it needed, it used the clout that Daredevil had gained from season 1,
mm-hmm.
and they put a lot of pressure on it to make the other ones jump off. I mean, like, you trying to get all these multiple storylines off the ground. I mean, Age of Ultron could have been a completely different movie.
Yeah.
They had to set up the Infinity Saga. The first time we ever heard about Infinity Saga, but now we got a gauntlet that we have to chase. We didn't even talk about the gauntlet. We just talked about Vision showing up with the Mind Stone, and that's an Infinity Stone. What's an Infinity Stone? Okay. And here's what's the hard part about when you're trying to set up multiple different storylines for one big baddie, or especially for a lot of different series. You can't go into detail in the series it was brought up in. And that's what makes it even harder, because the through lines don't go through. Why is the Punisher here? Well, we can't talk about it here. We have to go to his own story and find out what happens over there. So, or why is Elektra here? Well, we can't talk about it here. Follow us on the next adventure of Elektra when she comes back in Defenders. Oh, what about the story that we're even in? Well, we didn't have time for all of that, so you got to follow up in Daredevil season 3 to figure out how it all plays out.
Yeah.
Same thing with Age of Ultron. You got all these different plot threads that don't play out in their own movie, and it feels so unsatisfying when your own plot comes back into the fray and you can't finish it the way that you want to because you didn't set up what you needed to, or you had to pull away from different things that you really wanted to. Ultron is one of my favorite characters in the MCU. MCU Ultron, not comic book Ultron. Because it's gone evil Tony Stark, which I think is just fantastic. That's just me. I love witty villains. But you take away when you are trying to set up, you got Thor's dream that sets up the Infinity Stone. Okay, what the hell does that do with anything? We don't talk about that. You got and then you talk about the Avengers being torn apart again. Thought we cleared this up in the first movie. All right, guess we didn't. So we have to do that whole thing, driving a wedge into how Tony and Cap see Steve see things differently. to set up things for like Civil War that's coming up, or even just the Hulk leaving to go to space in Thor Ragnarok. You know, like that's one of the easier ones to explain away. But then you lose time with the villains you're actually spending time with, like Ultron, and how that finale is supposed to come up because Sokovia plays a huge part in other movies,
right?
As a setup for the rest of, or sets up the rest of the Infinity Saga. Because without that event, then you can't have Civil War, which means you can't have Cap returning in Infinity War. Or the split up of the Avengers, so why they're not together in Infinity War. There's a lot to do. Yeah. And Daredevil fell prey to that. There was a lot to do in so little time.
And I think that, and I think that's the problem with having that weight to carry. And I think that this is one of the few Netflix Marvel shows that felt like that didn't feel like it was too thin on story, because that season had way too much that felt unresolved by the end of it. Every other the theme that you'll find as we talk about these shows is that most of the seasons feel like they went on too long, because Netflix operates on a very similar, it's a TV format. It's a streaming service, but they operate like a television channel, like a TV channel. We're going to give you a certain amount of money for a certain amount of episodes, and we need you to deliver this many episodes. Instead of how many episodes do you need to tell the story that you want, and then we'll go for it. Because for all of these shows, they ordered 13 episodes in almost all of them. I think in Iron Fist, the second season, it was 10 episodes, but that was only because nobody fucking liked that show. So
we're gonna talk about Iron Fist.
So we're gonna get there. But every other season and every other show had 13 episodes. And the thing, without talking about all of these seasons, all of the thing that you often find in each of these is that they felt like they were stretched thin, and they were trying to spread out story over a bunch of episodes, and there were super slow scenes and super slow episodes where you felt like nothing happened. And that's true. And I think that's perfectly accurate, because I feel like that was how it was. Now, I don't know, like, I feel as though Daredevil season 1 and season 3 used all 13 of those episodes very well. You can argue
they had to balance it out with other stuff going on.
Well, and it wasn't even that. It was just that in 1 and 3 were self-contained, solid stories. The third season did pick up after what happens in the Defenders, but it wasn't necessarily dependent on that, right? And so, with that being said, seasons 1 and 3 were great, because they used all 13 of those episodes very well. They were very deliberate with how they were shot, with how they were written, with how characters portrayed, all of that. But you often find in the other series is that there are significant moments where things tend to just kind of like lag and slow down in almost every season. You can pinpoint at least one episode where you're like, yeah, this could have been cut out and we could have just brought these things together, and that's a very common thing that you find in these shows. And I would say that's one of the biggest drawbacks as we look back at these and compare them to the Marvel shows that we're getting now, where they have very deliberate episodes. Like, granted, it's millions of dollars to shoot these new shows, but at the same time, the stories tend to be very tight. And especially as we talked about Loki was, I didn't feel like any of those episodes were wasted. Sure, No, see, the thing is, I don't feel like any of those episodes are wasted. I feel like, sure, they could have like portrayed something different, but Honestly, every one of those episodes was necessary. Every one of those episodes had story that was relevant. Every scene, do you learn something? Something was added in the story. None of those.
There was no waste.
Yeah, there was no waste. There was like if you told me to go back and trim the fat on Loki, there is no fat. It was one of the leanest shows that I've watched in a long time, and it was just 6 episodes. And that was precisely how many episodes you needed to tell that story. And they told that story, and it was a good story, and they told it well. And so, and
imagine if they stretched it out for like 13. Gee whiz. Can you imagine that?
Yeah. Like the only thing that I could, I would imagine if they stretched out for 13 episodes, it would be episodical of just, oh, he goes to this timeline, and now we're doing this bit where Loki is dressed up as someone from the 70s. And none of that would have been necessary. And it just would have been superfluous stuff. Sure, some of it may have been fun, but overall, it would have been a waste. And so, and that's what you see in a lot of these Netflix Marvel shows, is that there are entire seasons where you can look and say, honestly, this could have been 8 episodes. Honestly, we could have finished this in half the time. And that's one of the most disappointing things in going back and watching some of these shows, is that writers and directors often had to figure out, what are we going to do with these 13 episodes? And I don't feel like they always got there. Sometimes they got close. Sometimes they hit the nail on the head. But more often than not, you finished the season and you were like, man, I felt like that was a slog toward the end. Like, we got to where we wanted to be, but then it was a little bit too much. Now, with Daredevil 1 and 3, it was solid. Moving into Jessica Jones, I felt like Jessica Jones, I think the first season of Jessica Jones was fairly solid. It did have a couple of episodes where they could have been trimmed. They could have been trimmed down, could have been combined, if they were to tell that story again. And I especially really liked Jessica Jones. I wasn't a fan with how they handled some of the characters, particularly Malcolm, because they did Malcolm dirty. Like, Malcolm was...
How dirty did they do him?
Malcolm was a solid character in that first season. Like, you were cheering for Malcolm, you were rooting for him to get clean, to for him to settle out, and then
all of a sudden, psych.
And then he becomes, and then everybody, like, the go-to for all of these people is everybody has a sex addiction now. Like, that's literally everybody's like downfall after like the first season is like, well, I cope with everything with sex. And that's everyone in the show. That's everyone in the show.
What I don't understand is that's like most kids in college. Like, I just don't understand, like, why is being horny like your downfall? Like, why, like, you couldn't figure out any other way to, my downfall is I like to have casual sex. Most of America is like that nowadays, my guy. You are nothing special, nor is it an addiction. The
thing that's weird about it is that it's just like, so I think for Jessica, it makes sense. Like, this is one of the very few times where I'm watching a fictional character, and their compulsion to sex makes sense, because that was her whole thing. She lost autonomy. That's often a symptom of someone who has been abused, especially sexually, and that makes sense. For Malcolm, that makes no fucking sense. and that's the reason why I was so disappointed in because that becomes everyone's thing. That's Hogarth's thing. That's Jessica's friend's thing. Not Patsy, whatever her real name was. But everyone's thing is that they're compelled to sex. And that's like every other episode is just some random hookup with someone in a bar or an alley or something like that. And I'm like, bro, like
the alley kills me.
And I think kills me. I feel like they got kind of lazy with it after that first season, and when it came to really portraying, because I think I tend to not like the way that people portray addictions in media because it's often super unrealistic, and they had an opportunity to do it well and to really portray that or portray recovery and relapse and different things like that and falling off the wagon. They could have done that.
I would have loved to see that. That's what
exactly. I would have loved to see them do that well. And it seemed like they were touching on it, and it was getting there in that first season. But then in that second season, it flew off the rails. And by the third season, they were nowhere near the tracks that they were originally on at that point, because they were sliding down the hill really fast. And I think that was the most disappointing thing about Jessica Jones was that sure, do people like this exist? You mean to tell me that all 5 of these people who have their own very different issues, where like maybe 2 of them are somewhat related, all have the same compulsions, all have the same addiction? That just seems so weird to me. And so
no, it is because it is weird. I mean, like when you think about it, we're going to talk about shows that deal with addiction. One that comes to my mind is House. And that's extremely exaggerated as far as a man that has addiction to Vicodin. Extreme portrayal.
Yeah.
The thing that I have with people that have sex addiction. And Jessica Jones just wasn't a sex addict. I wouldn't even call hers an addiction. It was more just like a byproduct of her alcoholism and just her dealing with her PTSD. It wasn't like an escape.
Yeah,
I don't want to call hers I don't want to call hers an addiction.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it. Yeah, but it was a compulsion, right? Like
it was her compulsion. Which when she did it, it was fine because it made sense.
Exactly.
It was like, but everyone else, like it gets old.
Like you mean to tell me that this dude was strung out on heroin, and he dropped out of college, and then he just became like. And then he just had a sex addiction. What? Like, where?
That's what I'm saying. And where's that coming from? Like you went like why couldn't you just stay like? And here's the thing that I have a problem with when the shows try to use sex addiction as like a thing for people to cope with, because I feel like they try to sell ratings. Other shows have done this. Like one I can remember vividly was 911 Rescue, and it's about some firefighters. And the first episode they deal with a lot of stuff because you gotta get people hooked in. But the guy was doing compulsive stuff because I think I have a sex addiction. I felt the director look in the camera and like wink at me, saying, "This is why we have them so naked during the episode."
And then he says it, and then a rainbow appears above his head. The more you know. And
it feels like the same thing when you have people that they use sex as an escape, but they say it's an addiction. And it's like, I feel like you're using it as a means to just show more nudity and try to be as lewd as possible.
Yeah.
And it comes off as cheap. Because, like, there are people that actually struggle with sex addiction. Like, they will hit anything that's available just to get off. And they will, compulsively do things, to themselves just to get off. That's what these people have, isn't that? Like, you know what I mean? It's available. They don't do it all the time. They're not to the point to where they're skipping work. Some of them are, but not to hit anything.
Yeah.
They're not spending all their money on prostitution and things like that. And it feels like they blow it out of proportion. Now you got a heroin addict. Just keep him a heroin addict. Why not just keep him a heroin addict? Nope, I gotta be a sex addict too.
Yeah.
Why can't you just deal with the heroin first? And who he likes to have sex with other strung out people. Why can't we just have that? Oh well, he has to overcome his demons. Heroin's a big enough demon on its own.
Yeah.
I think you can work with that.
Yeah.
And Jessica Jones is one of those shows where everyone's got demons. Everyone deals with demons. It's one of those things where you deal with your demons. Jessica Jones is a person that's dealing with alcoholism and a lot of trauma, especially losing control of herself and doing a lot of terrible things.
Yeah.
And watching her overcome that is a fun watch, because you see her deal with her compulsions, and then even after, like, she still drinks even though she knows it's a problem. because she has dependence on it.
Yeah.
And she knows that, and she's trying to get a handle on it. That's addiction. Like, she can't, her body will physically go through withdrawal if she doesn't get enough alcohol in her system. And so Jessica Jones is that prime example of what that looks like. Everyone else, I could take it or leave it. But Jessica Jones, in that aspect, I think did a phenomenal job, especially when it takes a show it takes Marvel in a direction of not just being a superpowered person beating up superpowered people.
Mm-hmm.
The way, especially going back to season 1, how she overcomes the final villain. And we didn't say this before, but of course, spoiler alert, stuff's been out for a long time, so don't come at us. How she
Why do we don't need to do a spoiler alert anymore? Y'all know.
Y'all know what y'all came to watch. Don't even give me that. Y'all know. Anyway, so like how she beats the final villain in season 1, I thought was one of the most appropriate villain defeats I've seen. Like, his whole thing is, I need to control Jessica. That's all I want. Yeah. And she fakes him controlling her as much as she despises it, to close and to snap his neck. It wasn't some big overdrawn thing. It was her overcoming her demons and putting herself in a very vulnerable position of where she literally is suffering from PTSD from to take out the villain, which is very heroic in its own self. I mean, think about it. Imagine if you are afraid of dogs and to save the person you care about, you had to go pet dogs for a minute, and roll around with them. And you've had a traumatic experience with dogs, and you have to just go do that anyway. I felt that with Jessica Jones. Like, she literally went to this guy and did the one thing she promised us she would never do, and is haunted by, so she could get the job done. And it wasn't flashy. Yeah. It wasn't overdone. Simple, quick, and hella satisfying. Jessica Jones, retrospective, season 1 at the very least, was phenomenal. I loved it.
Mm-hmm. And I think, I enjoyed the second and third seasons as well. I especially liked the second season. The third season seemed, the third season didn't seem like it didn't seem to come together well, and that was disheartening because that was the end. I don't think even if they wanted to bring it back, I don't think that Christian Ritter would want to come back and reprise that role. But I think I did like that first season, and I did like parts of the second one. Again, you find there's a bit of bloat once you get into that second and that third season. And I thought that was interesting. That because they had so much going on, it didn't feel like they needed to draw out some of those parts, but for some reason they did. And that was the thing that always bothered me about Jessica Jones was the direction that they decided to go sometimes with some of the seasons. That first season is still solid to me. That first season is up there. But as you get into the second and third, I feel like the quality kind of diminishes. And I don't know if it's because the people who were working on the show started losing steam, or if it just didn't land, or they couldn't execute. I don't know what it was, but it was disheartening to see it fade the way that it did when it could have been something more than it was.
100%.
And I will say this too, I am not a fan of the trope that you are now seeing a person that you killed, or seeing a person that's not there is now your subconscious or something like that. And they began to do that with David Tennant in Jessica Jones, because he became like the voice in her head, and he was always like whispering behind her. I'm like,
look, no.
Yeah, I always feel like that's cheap. There are ways that you can do it well where it doesn't feel terrible. But
if you were going to do, here's my problem with it. It feels like writer's remorse. If you didn't want them gone, you shouldn't have killed them off. Like other shows have done this, and it feels just that egregious. Where it's like, in the writer's room, it's like, oh man, we killed off David. he was really fucking good. Well, we can bring him back. Well, how do you expect me to do that? Always make him the voice in Jessica's head. Well, that really doesn't make any sense, does it? Yeah, but we keep him on. He sounds cool. Alright, do it. Like, don't get me wrong. You can be haunted. But...
Yeah, it's just... He disappears in every... Like, it's just everything. And I really don't buy into that. It's a very overused trope that I feel like is lazy in most regards, and most people don't. It's not thematic because
right,
and I feel like that there are some times when it makes sense, but he just appears just out of nowhere sometimes in the second and third season, and it's like, Jessica, like, bruh, do something different.
Well, in the case of Jessica Jones, like, when people bring up that trope, they're dealing with something traumatic, typically.
Yeah.
Right? They're dealing with, I'm going to bring up House. Like, House, when he saw Amber, he felt guilty feeling responsible for Amber's death directly. So that's why she haunted him, story-wise. The real reason was because they wanted to keep her around because they loved her as an actress. But, story-wise, you're haunted or you're guilted by something. When I see him mess with Jessica, it's like, I thought her overcoming him and killing him was the therapy. Like, I thought that was how we got past that. This is what it felt like at the end of season 1. Him coming back, it was like, what is she overcoming with him being in her head? Or was it pointing to with him being in her head? Like, does he self-control over her? But at least from what I remember, we don't see aspects of that where she's still talking about, I don't have control, or we're still suffering from that, because, it's set up in a way that, he was the abuser, right? And she still feels effects from that. It doesn't feel like that when they set it up, though. It doesn't. It feels like it's just, we want to bring this guy back. It feels kind of cheap that way. They don't do enough for me in that aspect.
Yeah. So, I think ultimately, my final thoughts on Jessica Jones is that the first season was strong. It's a very strong characterization. There were a couple of episodes that they could have done without, but ultimately they did what they needed to, and I think they did it fairly well. I think Kristen Ritter was the perfect casting for Jessica Jones, by the way. I can't think of anyone who could have done that better. She did a great job. And the other person, Carrie Ann Moss, who played Jerry Hogarth, the lawyer, was also a great addition. Carrie Ann Moss killed it. So they had really strong actors in a lot of roles, and a lot of these actors returned in future seasons. I think the problem is that some of the writing didn't do particularly well, and I know it was the writing because, like I said, these actors were doing a hell of a job. So I think overall the writing got away, the execution got shoddy, and they weren't able to do and they weren't able to pull it off. And I think that was that was unfortunate, And so I think I would still go back and watch Jessica Jones just to kind of see it again. That first season was solid. The second season was all right, and the third season didn't feel like a satisfying conclusion or a satisfying wrap, and that was the thing that was disappointing for me. But yeah, what are your final thoughts?
Final thoughts. Season 1 was fine for me. I thought that it was. I thought it was just fine. Honestly, I thought it was just fine. For me, the drunken protagonist is kind of overdone for me personally, so it didn't endear me to her. But that's just because I've seen it too many times. Mm-hmm. She did a phenomenal job acting, and so I can't take that away from her just because I have seen that one trope too many times. Overall, I think Jessica Jones was pretty good. I would say it's up there for me as probably this next one we're going to talk about, just because it's kind of up there. Like, okay, so I guess for me, her moveset is just like they didn't do her enough justice for me in the Defenders, because at least tactic wise, when you try to compare them to other teams, she's also just a heavy hitter. She, super powered heavy hitter, a bruiser type, and we already had that with Luke Cage. So it just felt like I wish I got more snarkiness from her and something more than just I can hit you very hard.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I wanted more from her, but the series was great overall. That's what I'm saying. Some of the stuff, the PTSD, I thought they could have did a little better. Season 1 was the best for me, though, because the way that she grows as a character, to overcome her demons, to take out the final guy, nothing has topped that. Season 2 didn't top that. Season 3 didn't top that for me.
Yeah.
Because the way she looks when he says to smile, and you can see in her internally that she is really fighting it.
Yeah.
But she knows but she does it anyway to get close enough to kill him. Like, it's so powerful to me. Like, nothing was really going to top that for me. So I thought that season 1 was definitely my favorite out of all, just because how it ended. And you see her journey to get to that point, and having some loved ones die in her arms, her feeling responsible for her to take that leap. Season 2, meh. Season 3, eh. But season 1 was the best for me. Her introduction, her detective skills and stuff like that. So Jessica Jones was great in that regard for season 1. It also set up Luke Cage, which I thought was also pretty cool, which is our next thing we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Luke Cage. Talking about Michael Coulter, and him being Power Man, or aka Luke Cage, hero for hire, man in the hood, Robin Hood of the hood, the afro, the undercover brother with no afro. And if I could describe this in a phrase, it's I want to say like Black History Month crammed into a Marvel show. Because man, can this guy quote? Like, this guy, if you want to know about a monument, how that's to do with Black history, he will tell you. Doing a crime? Don't worry about it. Someone got murdered? Don't worry about it. I got a reference to that too. Like, you got someone that was brutally murdered and raped in front of a statue of Billy Ray? Don't worry, I got an analogy and a history lesson for you on that. Don't even worry about it. I got you. And they always have the gospel music behind it. I freaking ate that shit up, and I don't know if I'm proud of that or not. like they pandered to me, my dog, and a lot of people of color. He was history lesson. He was the first hero of color in Marvel Comics.
Yeah,
to be the title character, the very first one. So yeah, there's a lot of history there, and I had my a father figure of mine didn't really care for Marvel, but watched the hell out of this.
Yeah.
And so I want to hear your thoughts, Lord. What are your thoughts on Luke Cage? Let's hear it.
Yeah, I think so. Luke Cage, it was definitely a bit of pandering, but at the same time, I think the selection of just a little bit of comics backstory. So Jessica Jones and Luke Cage are actually married in the comics, and so those two, like the connection of those two is kind of a no-brainer if you're going to bring them to screen in some capacity, because they're intimately connected as you see in Jessica Jones, and later you see a little bit of that in Luke Cage, but overall, I thought that it may have been pandering a little bit, but I also thought that, especially given when it came out, it spoke a lot to a lot of things that were in the conversation, the societal conversation of especially just like being a bulletproof black man, and obviously because that continues to be a theme in the world we live in, but I think it spoke a lot to the times in a lot of ways. Now, in terms of it being, and so I don't like how preachy it was at certain points. Like
with the music and everything.
Yeah, it was like like my man walks up behind him, puts a gun to his head, and I think he called him a nigga, and he was like, you dare to call me a nigga in front of the building named after the first black man to give his life for the revolution? I was like,
that's
bro,
what I'm saying. Like,
bro,
where'd this come from? Where'd this come from?
I don't know the situation in which a dude is going to do that and he's just not going to shoot you, especially in Harlem, New York. This is Harlem, New York. Not this isn't Kalamazoo, Michigan. This is Harlem, New York. And so, and I get that, he's bulletproof, but it's just weird. It's just weird moments that they choose to
get preachy, man.
Yeah, and so that bothered me a bit in the episodes, and it always seemed like an inopportune time. And I know that they wanted to deliver a message, but this is something that I tend to have a lot of problems with a lot of media catered toward a specific demographic. Because you see this in certain black movies, like movies that are catered to black people, movies that are catered to Christians, movies that are catered to, whoever. They always have to, I always feel like there has to be some sort of heavy-handed theme in the show. Don't get me wrong, I absolutely love themes in media, but I don't like you beating me over the head with it. And I felt like that's what...
Do they beat you? They beat the hell out of you.
And I think that there were some cool, maybe a bit more subtle themes that you see in the show. Like, one really cool theme that you see in the show is actually the painting in the club. And that is actually a really interesting thing that they come back to. It's similar to the white wall or the white painting that you see in Daredevil that Wilson Fisk has, but there's a painting in the club. I forget the name of the club that's in Harlem. That's kind of like a central piece of the show. But there's a painting in in kind of like the main office, and originally it's the picture, the painting of Biggie with the crown, with the lopsided crown, and that painting changes depending on who's in charge. And the cool theme about that you see throughout the show is that each of those paintings shows what the person in charge views a leader or a person that is a boss. That's how they view a boss in their eyes. And I think that's the interesting theme that you see about it. And there's even some cool shots that happen sometimes too, where someone is standing in front of the painting and the crown that's like on Biggie's head is on their head, with the way that the scene is shot. And so they do some cool things with it in terms of some production stuff. But in terms of some of the writing, I thought a lot of it seemed a little bit too heavy-handed. It was too preachy at times. And unfortunately, there were some, I think especially in season 1, because there were 2 seasons of Luke Cage. In season 1, up until the point where Cottonmouth, Mahershala Ali's character, gets killed, who Mahershala Ali stole the show and stole the scene in every scene that he was in. Mahershala Ali was probably the best actor in that show, and he was criminally underused because they killed him half of the way through. Now, the thing that bothered me was not that Alfre Woodard killed him, because I think that would have been an interesting development if she would have become the main antagonist from the get-go, if they had been setting that up. But the problem was that they were setting up for Diamondback to be the main villain of that first season, and Diamondback is super cartoonish. Just his portrayal, the way that he acts, it's just, the dude seems like a mustache twirling. Like, he goes and gets a super suit to fight Luke Cage at the end, and it becomes this like Street Fighter fight at the end of it, where they're just duking it out in the streets of Harlem, waiting until the other person's vitality goes down. And I'm like, bruh, like what? Like, we went from Mahershala Ali to this dude. Like, I don't know who that, I don't remember who the actor is who portrayed him, but I did not like that. Man, I did not like that. Yeah, it was rough. So, with that being said, I think that I think it gets better in the second. In the second season, there were still some episodes they could have done without, but I didn't feel like the second half was weak in that second season. I just felt like they drew some of the parts of it out. And full disclosure, I'm a sucker for a parent-child relationship. Like, anytime where there is like a parent trying to connect with their child and trying to make amends, that's something that I always connect with. And that happens in Luke Cage season 2. And it also is interesting because his dad is a pastor, and so, as a pastor's kid, I can connect with that. But ultimately, man, I think 1, Luke Cage, 2, preachy, 2, too many mentions of coffee and him having sex. Like, we get it, man. The dude is like 6'5", in good shape. He probably lays the pipe down good enough. We get it, bro. Like, that
he is every man's. He's what we all want to aspire to be.
Yeah, I'm like, bruh, chill. Almost every the thing that's one of the things that did bother me is that, like, literally it was kind of like a blaxploitation move. It was like if Marvel made a blaxploitation show. Because, to be fair, that's what the original Luke Cage was. It basically was a blaxploitation comic. The dude was previously a drug dealer. He had an experiment happen to him when he was in prison, and then he broke out and started to hunt down drug dealers. That was basically the original story of Luke Cage. Now, the preachiness was annoying. The constant references to coffee, which is a euphemism for sex in this show, where it's like, oh, I like coffee. I like my coffee with a little cream. Like, we get it, bro. We get it. Luke Cage has sex. We good. Thanks.
I thought he just like his coffee all kinds of different ways. Sometimes he likes more than one cup at a time.
Yeah.
I thought he just liked caffeine. You mean to tell me coffee was sex this entire time?
And I was like, bro, okay, what? You guys are funny. Anyway, so I think,
and those listening, look, don't start going to places where it's like, I like your coffee and think people are gonna get it. It don't work that way. Don't even start.
I will say that Mike, this was another top tier casting because Mike Coulter plays that role fairly well.
And Michael Coulter put on 30 pounds of muscle to fit this role.
Yeah, that was the other cool. That was like he put in the work for it.
Like, I wanted his workout regimen. In fact, I'm looking it up right now.
Yeah,
because I want multiple cups of coffee too. Shoot.
But hey, it was. I think it was parts of it were fun. I hated that second half of the first season, but I mean, it is what it is. Second season was better. I think they were going a more interesting direction. I'm still disappointed that they didn't make Alfre Woodard, who played Mariah Dillard. I'm just disappointed they didn't make her the main antagonist. Because she never is fully in that role, and that just annoys me. Because you had this potential for her to be this, like, they kept writing her up and hyping her up to be this kind of Harlem's kingpin, and she never quite got there because there was always someone else that was more bad than her. There had to be someone who was as strong as Luke Cage, and it always had to be some like fairly cartoonish dude in that role. And I was like, bruh, stop, just stop. And it never worked out well. So I don't know. I think I thought Luke Cage, there are parts of it that were fun. There are definitely some cool sequences, but ultimately I felt like I think it was one of the more tedious of the shows outside of like Iron Fist.
Oh, we even get to talk about. Oh my gosh!
Yeah, that's next. But I think
look at the time here. I'm looking at the time here. Oh, we have to talk about this, don't we?
Yo, we got time. So all of that to say,
you sure? Because we got so many things we could be doing. I could be doing laundry. I could be trying to find the portal to another dimension.
So that you can escape this conversation right now.
I could anything to do with out of talking about this terrible waste of time, white saucy yogurt curly fro.
So I'm not gonna say a lot about Iron Fist. I'm simply just going to say that Finn Jones is an terrible actor. Is a terrible ass actor. Finn Jones is first. Garbage. Finn Jones was the worst part of Iron Fist, and he was the main character. And if that doesn't tell you anything about the show, then I don't know what is. Jessica Henwick did a great job as Colleen because
she should have been the lead.
She should have been. And I feel like the thing that's wild is that you can really tell that the injuries that she sustained on set are with her to this day. Like she just, like I heard that she came back from like some LA chiropractor because of how much weight was on her back from trying to carry every scene that she was in opposite Finn Jones. Because bruh, watching her, like you could have replaced Finn Jones with a cardboard cutout of the comic book Iron Fist in any of the scenes that she's acting against him, and it would elevate the scene. That's how bad it is.
I don't see a difference, to be perfectly honest, between the cardboard cutout and Finn. Like, look, people, look, I know we like to poop on stuff. I'm trying to watch my language for my daughter, but I'm going to slip up every now and then. But you know what slips up? This man's acting. Like, look, I want to compare him to another show where they tried something similar where you have a rich white guy. It doesn't matter if he's white, but in this situation, it does matter because that's what he is. Sue me. Anyway, he fish out of water, fish back into water. You also have Oliver Queen. Now compare Danny Rand to Oliver Queen, how they portrayed it. Danny Rand comes back in and says, "Hi, I'm Danny Rand. I have no ID," and tries to walk into a motherfucking building, beats up guards, and tries to play dumb about it. Then let's take him, contrast him to Oliver Queen, who, mind you, doesn't do any of that, tactfully, and says, "Hey, I was actually still alive the whole entire time. Look me up. Here's my social," and calls it a day. Now, mind you, the acting range for Danny Rand, or Finn in this example, goes from bumbling fool to competent fighter to bumbling fool, and then continues to be a bumbling fool.
Yeah,
so we could never take seriously in any situation, which either he played the role too well, and the director just didn't tell him to put a kibosh on that, or he's just that bad to where I can never take him seriously. Because the fact his naivety is supposed to be endearing, and it comes off as just straight up stupidity. And that's what makes it hard to watch this guy. We're literally watching him, like, I will never forget, because this is what made me pause and put the show down for a while. When he's talking to the psychologist about, the psychologist is really trying to work with him, really trying, like, give this man a raise. He did more than I would have. I would have put this guy in the psych ward forever. Fuck him. But he's trying. He's like, it must have been really hard to survive that plane crash. And Danny, who just was sedated before him by talking nonsense, is like, yeah, it was hard surviving that. But this portal showed up, which happens every cycle, and then you see the look of disappointment on the psychologist's face. Like, I was trying, and then you watch Finn's character Danny Rand just confused, and it's like, how dumb can you be? Now contrast that with Oliver Green, Green Arrow, with Oliver Queen, not Green. I'm sorry, Queen. And when he's faced with what happened while you were gone, it's too difficult to speak about. They don't even go into it. They just see all the scars on his body. They just said, we'll just leave that alone.
Yeah.
They didn't let it go down that way, because you want to know why? It doesn't work. Yeah, Mom, you know what I did? I was on an island with renegades. I hit this Asian chick whom I got killed later. Was with this soldier whose eye I plucked out. He'll be back later. I learned how to shoot a bow and arrow from this Asian guy who I also got killed. And there's some Russians. I also did some stuff with this. I've learned 4 or 5 different languages in the meantime. More than I've ever learned in college. Also got laid quite a bit as well. I'm really good with a bow, and now I'm home. No!
Yeah,
no.
like,
and then you got Danny. That's like, yeah, these monks took me in. They trained me. Now I have this thing. My hand glows and turns into iron. And it's like, yeah, man, every 14-year-old feels that way. Like, come on now. Like,
I'm like, and the thing that's wild is that, so here's the thing. I'm gonna play devil's advocate. I'm gonna be like, so sure, Danny disappeared when he was a boy. He was young, he was maybe like 10 or 12, somewhere along those lines. He was a young kid. So, he never really grew up in the quote unquote real world. So he doesn't know about any of this stuff. But the average person, a 10-year-old knows that you're not just going to walk. A 10-year-old knows you're not just going to walk into a building that you haven't been in like 15 years and be like, hey, I own this place. Why are you kicking me out? And then beat the guard's ass. Like that. This isn't Streets of Rage.
And I'm going to argue with your devil's advocate here. So there's 2 ways that could play out. Okay, so first off, my first question is, what the fuck did the monks teach him while he was there? Because he's supposed to fight the hands. It's always the hand. The hand is doing this. The hand is doing that. It's always the hand that's got your back. Like, no. Like, so first off, either the monks really failed and chose wrong for the Iron Fist person that can't discern any sort of espionage, which he regularly fights ninjas. The hand has ninjas. You didn't tell me he's got that known to infiltrate. So the monks picked wrong and didn't train their Iron Fist well at all. Number 1. Number 2, okay, so he's 10 or so years old and mentally, right? And he, for whatever reason, can't think past, walking into the thing. So then how come when he gets out of the psych ward, he's able to handle reporters with complex questions like, hey, didn't you get put into a psych ward? And then he comes up with a complex answer he never actually practiced. So either you are a 10-year-old naive kid and you just forget. I don't know. Like,
look, man, he's a dumbass 10-year-old. Like that's
he handled the reporter very fucking well. Like he's either super naive in some situations, and in some situations he knows how to handle himself and handle the people around him. And it's so inconsistent. Like when he's talking with the board, and he's like, if we have the cure to cure all diseases, why don't we just give him the cure? Well, that's a 10-year-old, because business doesn't work like that. I gotta pay people gotta eat. But then, so he makes that decision, just like, well, we should make it so it's affordable for everyone. Which we don't get behind that until it hits your paycheck. Then everyone's gotta pay. All right. But then, he makes that decision. But then he's trying to be all tactical and shit. Like, oh yeah, I got help. I got help to do all this stuff. Talking to people in the public about how he was getting help from his brother and sister, and he's welcome back into this family life, and he needs time to adjust, as if he was prepped to answer the damn question. How can you be so naive and then so fucking smart at the same fucking time? It doesn't make any sense. It's so inconsistent. It pisses me off. Then he looks dumb in both situations. Like, you look at him just like, you don't even belong to be here. And people say that to him. You don't belong here. And we're supposed to find that, like, he's taking it to the man. No, man, you are the man. You suck. You're a little boy in a man's suit. That's what you are. Either the monks failed training you because you can't possibly do any espionage. Like, this guy's trying to take down the hand, the mystical hand, and he's got one job: protect my people from the hand. And he left. and his people got fucked up, and he's mad about it. Fuck you. You don't deserve to be mad about it. You left. You didn't do shit. He left a note saying, hey, it's like, where's Iron Fist? Hand or attack him. Well, we went to his room. There's a note there saying, like, hey, guys, I left during the cycle that happens once every, lunar solstice that happens like every 15 years. I left to go get some money and bitches, Iron Fist, threw a fist, and then, like, walked out that bitch. And then he's mad when people are looking at him like, you left us. I didn't mean to. Nigga, what the fuck do you think you were doing? You left. Like, it wasn't even a compelling reason to leave. It was, he got the responsibility, and then it just dipped. Now, mind you, all those typing in the comments, it was more complicated than that. Not to me, it wasn't. I got captured by monks that told me that the Iron Fist is one job, especially against the hand. I'm obsessed with the hand. I'm obsessed with these hands.
I'm obsessed with my hands, your hands, my hands, your hands, everybody's hands, all over the place.
Everyone's hands.
Sound like the Cha-Cha Slide Part 3. Like,
dog, it's too many hands. I'm obsessed with all these hands, and all of a sudden, I can't be there when the hand attacks. It's fucking stupid to me. Like, I can't be there the one time the hand fucking attacks. That's fucking stupid. No, I should never have left. And the thing was, he could have left if he didn't get the Iron Fist. He could have been Gucci. No one would have cared. He could have given it to the other dude who really could have used it, and left him. Like, the portal only opens every 15 or so years. Okay, hi monks. Thanks for taking me in, keep me safe, teach me some cool kung fu arts. I want to go get my PS2 back and get my $1 million that are owed to me. So he can keep the Iron Fist. I'm getting this iron, everything else. So you know what's better than iron? Platinum, money, and bitches. Fine. Like he didn't need the Iron Fist to do any of that.
No, but that. When you get an Iron Fist that can punch through anything, why give it up? All I'm gonna say, Iron Fist was a mistake. All right, the only good thing about season 2 is that it was shorter than the first one. That's literally the only thing. That I don't have anything else to say about Iron Fist besides, again, Jessica Henwick. Probably one of the only good things about that series, mainly because she did her damnedest to try and act opposite Finn Jones, and man, that was rough.
Look, I'm not gonna say Iron Fist was a mistake. Finn Jones was a mistake casting him in that role. I don't think he was right for it. He wasn't muscular enough for me for that. Surely wasn't a fucking martial artist, and he didn't have the acting chops to make up for the fact that he wasn't a martial artist. I think he was poorly casted for the role in all aspects.
Yep.
Mind you, I'm the shameless schmuck that watches it, but since I watch it, I am entitled to an opinion, and I could have saved y'all a ton of money.
Yep.
In putting this person in that, because I would have told you it's a bad idea. Look, it's not like he was a foreigner that didn't know English and didn't have time to acclimate to English customs. He wasn't a martial artist, and on top of that, he wasn't a phenomenal actor that could portray the emotional scenes and the scenes that needed to be done to make up for the lack of martial arts. He was ill-equipped and unprepared for every aspect of this role. Now, if your job was to make him look like a dipstick, he hit that nail on the head, and you writers should all be fired if that's how you wrote your main character, to be a dipstick. Like, even in Defenders, he gets shit on. Like, his whole thing in Defenders is they're expecting Danny to fuck up. That's one of the biggest things in Defenders. We are expecting Danny Rand to fuck up so we can take his power and blow up the city.
Yep.
It takes Daredevil, who whoops his ass with no powers. No powers! Whoops his ass easily. It's not even hard. Daredevil, mask off, outbreak in a sweat, beats Danny's ass.
Yeah.
No assistant. And the Hand's plan, part of their plan is that Danny's going to fuck up and come to us, and we take his power and we use it to blow up everything up. That's how shitty this character is. Like, how are you so terrible that the enemy's plan is counting on you to fuck up. Like watch Defenders again. Watch it again. They don't capture Danny. Their plans, they lure Danny. Not to capture him, but to lure him in. They expected him to fuck up, and that was a big part of their plan. And the only person that didn't see it was Danny. Everyone else saw it. And everyone else can beat Danny's ass, too. Luke Cage has shown to beat his ass. Jessica, I know, can beat the crap out of him. Daredevil, no powers. We watched him whoop the shit out of him like a baby. Wasn't even trying. Like, so where does Danny fall in this? He fucks up, gets captured willingly. To me, at least willingly. Like, they planned it. It worked out just fine. Gets his ass saved, and we're supposed to just cheer like the Defenders are together. No, y'all got a liability. Danny should never been there. Like, y'all better off him this guy yourself. Let the Iron Fist fade into nothing. Because it'd be like everyone here can beat him. So like, it ain't like he's bringing something new to the table.
Right. And
the only thing that turns iron is his hand. Shoot, I get more from that from Captain America's shield. Get out of here. Like, call Iron Man or something. And we didn't talk about this, but this is New York. This is New York. How big is fucking New York? Like, I can trade out Danny Rand with Peter Parker, who lives across the street. He lives in Queens. Look, Hell's Kitchens is maybe like 4 or 5 miles from Queens. Let me hit up Peter Parker. Hey, don't worry about it. We got the hand. Yo, Peter, I heard you fuck with Iron Man too. Yo, don't worry about it. Let me call Tony Stark. He's got his 20 drones. We gonna take out the hand, no problem. Oh, we don't need that. We got Tony's accountant who can take out Fist for us. Looks like Fist was doing some money laundering. Don't even worry about it. FBI's on his ass. He's out the picture. Punisher, don't worry about it. Captain America's already been there. He's already got him. Winter Soldier already took his hands off him. Whatever, don't even worry about it. We're good. Avengers got called in. We're straight. And Black Widow changed the fucking history with her spy skills. And guess what? They're now put away thanks to S.H.I.E.L.D. Alright, cool. Problem solved. We don't even need Iron Fist. And all I did was make a call to the local hero Spider-Man. Look. Final thoughts on Iron Fist. Finn was just not prepared for the role. The writing was okay.
No. I'm not gonna allow you to say some bullshit like that because the writing was fucking terrible too.
Cully was the best part about that whole entire series. The fact that she is such a goon. She tells her students, I want you to jump me in public. And all at the same time, whenever you feel like it, beat the crap out of me. Try and take me out. Beast up and says, I thought I trained y'all better than that. That is one of the the coldest line I have ever seen. I'm going to train you to beat my ass. You failed. I thought I trained you better than that. Like, damn.
Yeah.
Colleen carries that show. She should have had the Iron Fist from jump. Finn needs to sit down, and he has. And he's so bad they reduced him to cameo. Let's be real. Like, dude didn't get a season 3. He ended up in Luke Cage season 2. That's how bad that was. Like, they didn't even want to even try to renew it. At least with Luke Cage season 3, they had creative differences. They decided not to pursue it. But Iron Fist, they said, nah. We can't kill you off, but we can't have a show with you either. So we're gonna put you in cameo roles throughout each person's series and see how that goes. That's how bad this was. So, final thoughts. I don't ever want to watch this shit ever again. If y'all make me watch that shit ever again, I know you like it. It was awful. I can't watch that shit again. I'm gonna roast every moment I'm watching it. So there you go. There's my take.
And then I don't want to talk about Defenders because it's basically just an amalgamation of all of the issues and all of the good parts of all the other shows. Like, the worst part of it was Finn Jones. The best part of it was seeing the characters that we do like come together, not Finn Jones. And so, yeah, that's it for the Defenders. And then the last one is the Punisher. So the Punisher is kind of weird because I feel like the Punisher has the least, outside of him being in season 2, he just seems less connected to the other shows than any of the others because one, everyone has Defenders. So the thing that's wild is that all of the other characters make cameos in other shows. So you see Luke Cage and Jessica Jones. You see Luke Cage sometimes you see Luke Cage characters in other shows. You see Daredevil characters in other shows. You see Jessica Jones characters in other shows. It's wild because everyone else seems super interconnected. And then the Punisher was in Daredevil, and Karen Page, who is in Daredevil, is in Punisher, but that's it. After that, like, there's no other connection. And so Punisher just seems kind of like, it seems like Daredevil is like the circle where everything is connected and it's connected to the others. And then Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, Iron Fist are all connected on their own, and then back to Daredevil. And then Punisher's just out on a circle on his own, connected to Daredevil, and that's it. And so I feel like from a production standpoint, it just seems weird because it's just kind of out there. In terms of the content of the show, I actually thought that some of the theming was really interesting. There's a good portion, especially in that first season, of how veterans are treated. You know how, and that was a huge subplot of that first series, and so the first season in the series, and I thought that was actually pretty interesting. Again, I feel like some of it seemed like it dragged on. I feel like you could probably cut 2 episodes in terms of the length, but I think that's some of the leanest in terms of the shows for the Marvel shows outside of Daredevil 1 and 3. So again, the casting was great because John Bernthal did a hell of a job as Frank Castle.
Oh my gosh!
Like
Walking Dead to making everyone dead walking.
Yeah, like
I'm proud of that one. I'm keeping that one. That's a keeper. I'm keeping that one. From Walking Dead to making sure everyone's dead walking. I love it.
So, yeah, John Bernthal did a great job as Frank Castle. Again, I feel like that was 4 out of 5 knockout casting choices. Finn Jones is the only miss in terms of main characters that I think that they cast. So I think in terms of the content, I liked the Punisher. I feel like there were some parts of it where it seemed a little, in that first season, some of the relationship with like Micro's wife and all of that, I could have done without. That seemed like a little bit. There's also like Agent Madani, who is a Homeland Security agent who's trying to figure out who killed her partner in the Middle East, and it turns out it was like Frank Castle and his unit who were doing like illegal missions, and she begins a relationship with one of Frank's old war buddies who also turns out to be evil. And it's another one where there's like, I think there's like 5 sex scenes between her and this dude, and I'm like, bruh, I get it, they're porking. We don't need that every 5 episodes. Like, keep in mind there's 13 episodes, so there's like, like I get that's a part of it, but I feel like this is just me and personal preference. I feel like you should ask, if when you're having a sex scene, what does this communicate to our audience that we can't like, and is this the best way to communicate it? Because if you're trying to communicate that they're sleeping together, okay, the first time, show them being physical and intimate and them like about to have sex. All right, show that. And then subsequently just show them like waking up in each other's bed, butt ass naked. That's all you need. You don't need to show, like, I don't need to see this dude like humping her from the back for like a full 20 seconds before.
I do. I need that. I need to get to my Marvel end. I need that in my Marvel TV. Look, I'm so straight.
You need to be watching a different streaming service than Netflix if that's what you need, because Because seriously,
it serves no purpose.
Yeah.
I mean, like you're not wrong. Because I mean, like at that point, it's not even fan service. Because I know people are in the comments like it's for adults. Look, if I wanted to watch porn, I'll just watch porn. I don't need, a silhouetted doggy style on my television.
Yeah.
When I'm watching something I thought was child
when I'm watching, and it's not child. Like nobody is watching Punisher thinking it's child friendly. I get that.
No,
and I'm not. Look, be sex positive, whatever. I don't care. Like, people have sex. That's a part of life. That should be a part of storytelling, right? The fact that two characters are in this illicit relationship. That's the part of the story. That's a key aspect of the story. That's a key aspect of motivation, characters. I understand that. But the problem is that you can just, like, why are we showing that? That's not the focus of The Punisher, right? If this was like a romantic comedy or something like that, and that's what we were watching, that's another thing. This is The Punisher. I'm here to watch Frank Castle punish some motherfuckers, not watch Agent Madani and Prince Caspian get it on. Like, that's not what I'm. That's not what I'm here to see.
I mean, like, he is punishing that ass. I mean, you're watching a Punisher. Not the Punisher that we wanted. I mean, like,
it's not the Punisher that we wanted. It's the Punisher we needed.
The one we needed. Like, dog. Because the thing is, like, I'm thinking to myself when watching these scenes, like, because I feel like they're trying to humanize her, which is. Like, and I don't know why it's always that for women, at least for female characters, the way to humanize them is for them to be intimate sexually.
Yeah.
Like, because that's what it felt like they were doing. Like, oh, she's this hard cop going through a hard time. You know what's going to make people relate to her? Her getting some dick. Like, that's what's going to do it.
Yeah.
And I can see her read the script. It's like, I get fucked again? Like, I thought we did this already. Yeah, but this time we're going to do a silhouette of you getting hit from behind, though. So I need you to act like it feels good. Right? Smile. Like, remember, this is important. You're doing good for your career. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
No one. But like, it feels like they were trying to humanize it because every time that they did a scene like that, it was always after she either fucked up or was traumatized by something.
Right.
That's what it felt like. It felt they used it as a device to show that she's human, and it feels like they could have done different things to show that. The fact that I'm watching her. I think one of the ones where, what happened? I forgot. Dang. Something bad happened to her, and all of a sudden the guy shows up, and they start doing it. And it's like, oh, she's hurting, so she wants that to forget about everything. But there's so many other ways you could have done that.
Yeah.
It goes way too long.
Well, and I think that's the thing for me is like it just took up too much time. Like, and I feel like it was just kind of like, well, we're gonna throw this in here because we got time to do it. I'm like, bro, just. Tell the story.
You don't have to.
Yeah, tell the story.
And the thing is that like her character doesn't need it to be humanized, and that was the problem I had with all of her scenes. It was after something bad happened, we can't just
like we get it. Like we understand. You lost your partner who was murdered brutally. We get it. Like we don't need. I don't need that extra motivation to care about that. Like that's superfluous.
And on top of that, like, it gets excessive. Like you said, the first time, really, I get it. She uses, and this goes back to the Jessica Jones thing, where they use sex addiction as a means of trying to show addiction and faults of a character. They do the same thing here, where every time she's trying to grieve or deal with some traumatic event, she deals with it through having sex. And it's like, you don't have to, there are other ways to show depth with a character besides having her get physical. And it feels like they do that with just a lot, I see it more with the female characters. They try to do that. The male characters, they kind of show he's a deviant. Like, yeah, he's just a deviant. Female characters, it's like, he's hurting inside. This is the only thing. And it's like, no, there's other ways to do that. You don't have to humanize her just by having her have sex. There's more ways to do it.
Right.
Now, mind you, those in the comments, before you start clicking, no one's shaming anybody. That's not what we're saying. What we're saying is, use your scenes appropriately to convey the message that you're trying to convey. If you're trying to show grief or remorse, you showed a sex scene once. We get it that every time when she feels this way, that she does that. You don't have to go into longer, intimate scenes than you have to, which makes everyone uncomfortable because, I didn't come to Netflix to watch porn. I go to porn to watch porn. So, like, I don't want to feel like I misclicked on my streaming service. Like, like if I'm watching your show and it turns out to be this, like I'm questioning what I clicked on. Like, what the fuck? Get the heck out of here! Like, my wife comes in and she seems to be watching this. Like, I haven't had a conversation now that I want to have. Thanks a lot, Netflix. Like, look. So, I mean, Punisher has some faults for sure. One thing that I would say I loved about the Punisher is that when he did punish, it was brutal, and they didn't do that enough. Always felt like some end of season thing where they just went off on a dude, you know? But I wanted more of that for the Punisher. Punisher was brutal, and what was also great about him, he was tactical.
Yeah,
he wasn't just some invincible machine. He was a very tactical man. You saw his military background come into play, which they don't. Which I thought, well, I wish they highlighted more, but they don't highlight enough. Because they did do that, and I love that about it. He was very tactical. Felt like he was a one-man army, but he was a very great tactician when it came to surprise the enemy, different tactics, and his skill level. So overall, I think Frank Castle was a phenomenal Punisher. And there are funny interviews of him on
you mean John Bernthal?
Yeah, John Bernthal. People coming to him, telling him not to fuck it up. He has some great interviews where he tells those stories. I highly recommend you watch them. But he does a great job of doing that. He really, really knows how to show anger, frustration, sorrow, and that glimpse of hope that things can get better, but then getting shot back to earth like people are shit. Because when he goes to Punisher mode, that glint of light goes away, and I love it.
Yeah.
And the one thing, I'll never forget one of the best interactions was with him and Daredevil in the Daredevil series, because the way they see things. You see it from Frank's perspective, and a lot of us agree with how Frank sees things. And doesn't make anyone a better person. No one's out here murdering people, but what makes Frank compelling is that his argument does have some merit. When he talks about how he's punishing people, putting them in the ground, when they go down, they don't get back up. Trying to make the world a better place. You don't have to agree with his methods. And we would argue, don't agree with his methods. But what makes him compelling is that he does have a point based on the results. And it causes you to think. You may not agree, but it causes you to think, and he's a character that makes you think about certain things. If they were handled a certain way, would things be different? And what is great about every season he's in, he's always pushed to be the Punisher. It feels like. Never, I'm just out to kill. It's, okay, I tried to be this, I tried to change, I tried to get my life back in X, Y, and Z, I tried to be alone, and now you guys are bringing the demon out of me. And now I'm going to kill everyone here, and it always at the end feels justified based on his journey from point A to point B, because he takes so much punishment. Like he takes so much punishment, and it wears on him. And then when he snaps and actually goes on and beats the shit out of somebody and kills them brutally, you're just like, hell yeah! You're like, I'm down for it.
Yeah, you know that they kind of have that coming, like
right. And this is what I love about the writing of the Punisher. They do not make the mistake of making our villains sympathetic. Thank God. They make them the biggest pieces of shit that we could ever be witness to. And so that when Frank comes to kill them, it feels satisfying instead of conflicted. Because I would hate... Because I love... Say, for example, he has to kill the Kingpin, right? In a brutal fashion. I feel type way about that because I like the Kingpin. He's not all bad. That's because Marvel made him that way. In the comics, he's a ruthless killer. In the Marvel universe, where he's, in the Daredevil universe, he's sympathetic.
No, he's not sympathetic. He's a ruthless killer. Like, he's a ruthless killer. But you like his. I don't feel for the Kingpin. He's not, and the thing is, he's not written to be felt for. But you like his portrayal. That's the difference. And like because
I got that confused. The fact that muddles the line for me is the writing. That muddles the line for me, because when they kill his girl and he goes on a rampage, I felt that.
When they killed his girl.
Yeah, the first season? Or they got rid of her?
They didn't kill Vanessa.
What did they do with Vanessa? They got rid of her, didn't they? Didn't they try to do something to her?
They tried to.
Vanessa?
I think, so dude tried to have her killed. She didn't die.
Okay, so she didn't die.
But he found out that like his lawyer or his fixer or whatever tried to have her killed, and he beat the daylights out of this dude.
Yeah, it threw one of them down an elevator shaft, right?
Yeah, that was the dude. He beat the mess out of him, and threw him down an elevator shaft. Because then he tried to extort him and was like, "Here's what you're gonna do. You're gonna sign over your power of attorney, blah blah blah, to me." And he beat the mess out of him and then threw him into an elevator shaft.
See, that's what I'm saying. Like, see, like for Kingpin, if I'm watching Kingpin get killed, I'm always like, "Oh man, Kingpin!" But no, his lines are so great. Don't kill him. No. That omelet with just cheese and parsley was so good. No. Like, oh man, that apartment looked immaculate. Don't kill him, no. But when Punisher kills a dude, it's like, fuck that motherfucker.
Yeah,
do it. Gouge his eyes out.
Yeah, like, when you beat when the Punisher lives up to his name, you're like, yeah, this is what I came to see.
It's satisfying, and it's so brutal. It's like, oh yeah. This is why I slogged through 11 episodes to get to this. This is what I wanted.
Yeah.
It's what I've always wanted.
So
that's my final thoughts on Punisher. It was good. It was enjoyable. I think Frank Castle, it was phenomenal in that I wish that I don't know. I think it was overall great. I think it was overall great for me.
Yeah, I would say that I really loved John Bernthal. I think some of the supporting actors weren't the most solid, but it is what it is. I feel like not all of them. I mean, not all of them were bad.
No, not all of them.
Yeah, but the point is that John Bernthal did a great job in his character. I think that they had some really interesting themes they delved into. There were some supporting casts that were pretty good. The young man who played I think it was like Lewis Wilson in the first season, who's kind of like this young vet who has PTSD, and like everyone is trying to like, and you just see him getting pushed further and further, and I think his actor did a good job in that. But overall, I think that it suffered from that 13 episode order again.
Oh, they could have got that done in 6. I wholeheartedly think they got that done in 6.
Easily, they could have,
or 7,
6 or 7, yeah,
maybe 7.
Half of that time for sure, because like I just felt like they were drawing out so much. They were drawing out so much in these episodes, and it was like, man, like this could have been done earlier. So, yeah, I am going to watch the second season of Punisher again. Recently, I went back and watched that first season, and I enjoyed it. It was good to have on while I was like working on stuff. But yeah, so all in all, I think the consistent theme is that Daredevil is obviously the best in terms of the Netflix shows. Daredevil is the best. First and the third season is phenomenal. Is phenomenal. The second season is good, but it doesn't live up to the other. But it's sandwiched between two great seasons of television. I would probably put Jessica Jones as the second best, just because of the strength of that first season. Even though the second and the third were lacking. Honestly, I think that Punisher is third for me. Luke Cage is probably fourth. Marvel Superhero Time, the animated TV show that came on Cartoon Network, is fifth. And then there's the 60s Spider-Man cartoons.
Oh, now we're adding all that in there.
And then there's that parody short that they had on Incredibles that came out. And then you have Iron Fist. That's my rating, because Iron Fist doesn't deserve to be in that. In a list of 5, Iron Fist is 8th.
Look at that. See, like, and I agree that Iron Fist is definitely not on my list. It didn't even make my list because it's a waste of pen and paper at that point in time, and waste of dialogue. because there are so many things. My superhero friends, the obscure anime adaptations that are also on Netflix that you can watch instead of Iron Fist. The movies of Iron Man and War Machine and the Black Widow animated anime movie that's also on Netflix is ahead of that. And also, just everything else is ahead of that. Iron Man's definitely last on my list when it comes to rating these Marvel shows. Daredevil is also be first for me. It's been the most consistent when it comes to characters, tone, and overall quality. So that's going to be number one for me. I am going to put Punisher at number 2 because I thoroughly enjoyed Frank Castle in that portrayal and his character. I'm going to put that number 2. I'm going to put a tie between Jessica Jones and Luke Cage because honestly for those two, they're interchangeable for me, to be perfectly honest. Not because I think quality is in both. I felt more for season 1 for Jessica Jones, but I also felt for more for season 2 for Luke Cage.
Yeah, so that's fair.
They depending on the season, when you compare the two, they're on the same level for me. They have hit and miss. They also cameo quite a bit as well. So I mean, for me, even if they hit with the Jessica Jones Luke Cage show that had them both together, it wouldn't feel like a change of pace for me. So I'm gonna put Jessica Jones Luke Cage is interchangeable between 3rd and 4th. Put them in the same ranking. From there, I'm gonna put Daredevil 2003. I'm gonna put Catwoman. I'm then gonna put Man of Steel. I'm gonna put Batman v Superman, and then I'm going to put Iron Fist there at 1. And
yeah, I think that's accurate.
Yeah, Finn, I'm sorry, dude. You were not the right person for this. Oh man, I know if you're listening to this podcast.
Yeah.
I think you're probably a pretty cool dude. You seem like a pretty chill dude. It's just you just were not the right pick for this role. Now I'm not saying I wasn't either, but I never would have taken the role either. Thinking I was. So I'm just saying, stay in your lane, and I hope this is a lesson for you moving forward.
Oh, he doesn't pull any punches, folks. Well, that was our super trip on Marvel Netflix shows. A bit of revisiting what was. Overall, it is unlikely that we will see most of these characters again. As we stated before, Charlie Cox may be returning. There's a lot of rumors circulating. There's a lot of evidence that he may be coming back. But as for the other shows, it may be a wrap. So I would say overall, it was fun while it lasted. Most of them brought us some enjoyment. That's a very heavy most. Very, very much specific.
Or loose. Or very loose.
Yeah, 4 out of 5. 4 out of 5. That's most. That's 80%. So, with that being said, if you haven't seen these, and if you're open to watching some superhero shows with some darker themes, if you haven't had the opportunity, I would suggest watching most of these. Defenders you can probably pass on. Honestly, there's not a ton. It's not necessary. And Iron Fist is definitely not necessary. But I would recommend that you watch it if you can stomach it, and if you want to. I especially recommend that you watch Daredevil. You don't need any.
If there's anyone you're gonna watch, it should be Daredevil.
Yeah, that's the settle for. But hey, that's just our thoughts. We're just two sly guys talking. So, with that being said,
real quick, I want to ask one question though, real quick.
Yeah,
Terry Crews or Mike Coulter? Who would win in a fight? Who would win in a fight?
In an actual fight. In an actual fight. In an actual fight, it's going to be Terry Crews.
I want to hear in the comments. Who do you think would win? Because I just thought about this because
because people were hyping up Terry Crews to be Luke Cage. Yeah.
Yeah, and plus after Luke Calder came out, people were like, "That's Terry Crews." Like they interchanged the two. So I want to hear your thoughts, everybody. Not based on physique, but who do you think would win an actual fight? Because we all know Terry Crews is basically all muscle.
Yeah.
So physique wise, yeah, he wins that. But I want to hear from you guys. Who do you think,
Terry Crews is just muscle with a smile. That's literally
right.
He's just a massive muscles with smile and charisma.
That's just literal shtick. Like, I'm a muscular dude that people like to watch. That's it. There's nothing else to him. So don't say he's more ripped. We don't give a fuck. I'm talking about if they are both Luke Cage, who do you think would win? This basically star power at this point.
Yeah.
Okay. So who drinks more coffee? Terry Crews. I'm going to money on Mike Coulter on that one. I think Mike Coulter drinks a lot of coffee with all kinds of stuff in that coffee. Dark black, cream.
Mike Coulter is married.
All cream. So is Terry.
Yeah, I know. That's what I'm saying. Both of. Anyway.
And we're talking about their fictional counterparts, Luke Cage. I think Terry and Luke Cage would talk too much.
No, you didn't say that. You just said Mike Coulter or Terry Crews. I'm like, they're two different people.
They are two different people, and those two different people are playing Luke Cage. And I'm saying that Terry Crews would probably put some coffee.
On that note, I'm Lord Third, your number one trash for aka the Garbage Goat, aka Jackie's Bay, and I'm here with.
I'm here with the massive coffee drinker, 2 fists full, crazy sugar, talking about me. I am the king of dreams. I'm the range, no better than a stranger, and I'm sipping all caffeine free on me. And we are
the Sly Guys, delivering the hottest hot takes on all things nerdy and culture, and we will be back soon. Peace.
We'll be back soon, hopefully with more coffee being drank between now and then. Oh man, I'm getting fired.